Exceptional circumstances. That's the nothing personal word of the day. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. And it looks like Scottie Scheffler is going to have to tell the PGA that he is eligible under Rule 5.3, Exception 3, that the committee can decide that exceptional circumstances will prevent you from starting on time. The tee time for Scottie Scheffler will be this morning at 10:08 a.m., originally scheduled for 8:48. The PGA Championship is going on right now. There's a delay because of a pedestrian fatality, and that would not have been show-worthy, as sorry as I am for the family of the pedestrian, if not the pedestrian, him, her, themselves. But what is noteworthy is the breaking news from Jeff Darlington, a reporter at the right place at the right time, if that's what you want to call this. Scottie Scheffler's been arrested. So we were going to start the show today with Juan Soto and Scott Boras and the New York Yankees, but it was hard to not, when you are live at 8 a.m., to go through the news of now, which is the world #1 golfer, the equivalent of Jokic being arrested on the way into the Minnesota arena. Well, last night, of course, that wouldn't have made a difference in the game, but this is the scenario. Scheffler's driving in to play golf as the world's #1 player. There was a backup. He tried to get around the backup, purportedly. He went where he wasn't supposed to go, purportedly. The police took him out of his car forcefully, purportedly, and then arrested him, not purportedly. We have video of that from Jeff Darlington. Escorted him away, and another cop in Louisville said very simply, get back, get away. There is nothing you can do. This man's being arrested. Who is this man? This man is the #1 golfer, Scottie Scheffler. So Jeff Darlington immediately went on television to talk about this, and I immediately went to the rule book to see what happens when you don't make a tee time. I've never heard of it. There's always, when the players get announced in the tee time, next up, Tiger Woods, and then he hits the ball, and then he's on his way. So there's a bunch of rules. You have to be ready to play no more than 5 minutes late. Fair enough. You can't start more than 5 minutes early. Fair enough. But exceptional circumstances, then no penalty at all. So I wonder right now, there's a lot going on. Scheffler's got to have an attorney. They got to process him. I can't speculate why he was arrested. I can't speculate why he'd be dragged out of a car for trying to get around a traffic jam. I can't understand why he wouldn't show ID, and maybe he did, and why the police wouldn't say, all right, sorry, go ahead. Good luck today. I can't imagine him putting up any sort of fight. Why would you ever do that to police who are managing an obviously exceptional circumstance with a backup of cars? Even if Scottie didn't know, which he likely didn't, that there was a fatality, you can't accuse him of not knowing that and being properly respectful, even if he did know. So we're going to get way more information about this, but what's happening now is logistics. You've got the PGA deciding how they're going to announce what they're going to announce, and all they've said is, hey, we're delayed. And that announcement happened prior to Scheffler being arrested. Then a little update with when the new tee times are, because that's, of course, what all of the people who may be betting on it or watching it or whatever the case may be. So they announced an 80-minute delay. Then you've got Scheffler, who only call is to the agent. That's your first call when you're a player. Our first call was to our resident security advisor, but it's not your wife. It's not your friend. It's either your agent or somebody in law enforcement. I can't speculate about Louisville except to say I would imagine there are steps taken when someone is put in handcuffs that you can't say, oh, you're famous, undo the handcuffs. I assume once the handcuffs go on, there has to be an entire process, a booking process, detained, and it's going to be more than just a couple of hours just because that's how paperwork happens.
So clearly Scheffler is not going to be on the course ready to go at 10:08, which is only in 125 minutes. And maybe he will be. I don't think he will be. Let me say it in a way that's way more clear. Scottie Scheffler will not be ready to tee off for round 2 at 10:08 a.m., which is his new scheduled tee time. The PGA will then decide whether or not it's an exceptional circumstance, and they will decide it is an exceptional circumstance. The problem is, what happens if he actually did something bad that is worthy of arrest? I'm not sure that's an exceptional circumstance anymore. That seems like a self-inflicted circumstance. And I could argue a self-inflicted circumstance is not all that exceptional. It was him. So do you think the PGA would get ahead of it and say, oh no, he didn't do a thing, therefore impugning the police automatically in what they did, which may turn out to be the case, but we don't know that now. So how does the PGA rule right now without information? Believe me, they are having meetings right now at the course. The tournament director, PGA officials, they are getting together to figure out how they deal with Rule 5.3a. It's the lead story. It's not epic, but it's certainly worth mentioning because I'm trying to think of the last time. In a team sport, it's easy. I was thinking about when a player's late to a game, we play. We get angry with the player. We bench the player. We don't let the player play. This is amazing. It's amazing. Excuse me one second. John, I'm literally in the middle of a live show. May I call you back?
Okay,
Thank you. Love you, Skipper. Sporting class coming out today. Are we always from 8 to 8:50 a.m.? Just asking. Just throwing it out there. I promised him I'd always answer his call. Where were we, Coca? Before I got distracted. Oh, when players are late in a team sport, the show goes on for sure. Individual sport, I'm trying to think. I may call my friend Marty Fish. Sorry to look at me, Louie. What happens if you're late to a tennis match? I assume they're the same rules. They'll wait. I've never heard of it, but they could wait. And you'd think in New York that with traffic, etc., there could be delays. On the other hand, I guess it could have happened, but I'm going to say you lose, you forfeit. I don't think you get the right just to start playing tennis whenever you arrive or to tee off whenever you get there, like running to the course the way amateurs do when they're late to a tee time. Hey, starter, can you work me in? It's all quite scheduled. Maybe they give him a break because he's the world number 1, but how do you do that? What if the world number 100 is late? Sorry, man. Sorry, folks, park's closed. Well, we're going to find out here, maybe even before this live show's over, though I highly doubt it. I think that's just one of 3 things that we will not find out before the end of this show. Whether Scottie Scheffler will tee off on time is 1. 2, whether Juan Soto will sign an extension with the New York Yankees. Yesterday was a day that made me smile. It gave me goosebumps. Out of nowhere, Hal Steinbrenner, bless his heart. We've already told you owners should not be talking to the media. They shouldn't be tweeting. We'll get to that, New York. Steve Cohen. Bad things happen. I don't know how many other ways Sarah can cut me saying this, but here it is. When owners talk to the media or go on podcasts or open their mouths, nothing ever good happens. Why do I say it? Because when presidents or GMs are talking, either they're saying nothing, which is purposeful, or they're saying something, which is purposeful. There's not emotion, there's purpose. Hal Steinbrenner gets on a talk show and says, we'd like to see him here for the rest of his career. I don't think there's any doubt in that. His agent, Scott Boras, does intend to do deals in the middle of the season. Neither do I. I think it can be a distraction. But as I said in spring training, this is a unique situation and a very unique player. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was a conversation or two had possibly during the course of the season. I think it's worth doing at some point. One of the things, and I started, side note, I started on Peacock yesterday the documentary based on John Sherman's articles about the New York Yankees team of 1990, which had Don Mattingly on it, and the craziness of that season. And I was reminded even more so about George Steinbrenner and the way he was, which I knew, but I wasn't in baseball at the time. I really only got to know George when I was in baseball, and I saw for myself the things he would do and say, and I experienced for myself the things he would do or say by spending time with him and beating his team in the World Series. For George, it was always about him, and he would use the media. He would use the media to forward his agenda, however or inappropriate his agenda was. The media was a conduit for his message. Hal Steinbrenner does not have the presence of his father, George. He doesn't have the malevolence of his father, George. And he doesn't have the gravitas of his father, George. And I'm not sure that any of those are particularly a negative reflection of Hal. Hal happens to be a super nice man who has done arguably an amazing job at increasing the value of the Yankees during his tenureship when he took over, actually from his brother, not from George. Little known fact there. That's from a while ago, that little family squab. But when you talk about a player in a unique situation, you've got to think about your team. What was Aaron Judge? Was that a unique situation when he was a year away from free agency? Did they engage with Aaron during the course of the season, or did they wait till after the season and wait till they thought he was going to Frisco, and then all of a sudden the deal got done? Juan Soto has been on the team for a month and a half. I meant playing regular season games for a month and a half. Do any due diligence about Juan Soto's time in Washington? Owners don't do that. It's the strangest thing. References available upon request. We always say that at meetings. Hey, if you want to talk to me, I'm happy to tell you what I know about the player because we lived with him. We had him. I wonder whether or not Hal Steinbrenner's talking to the Padres about Juan Soto and how that worked out last year. I'm trying to figure out what exactly is unique about Juan Soto. And I think Juan Soto is, you ready? What was it, Cokie? He just set the record. Youngest player with the most walks. He's got an amazing eye. He's got the shimmy. He's got power. He hits for average. He's having an incredible season. We're a quarter of the way into the season. He's hitting .302. Aaron Judge, a quarter of the season ago, was a dog, is what everyone was saying. He's terrible. What are we going to do? Meanwhile, he's HOTTT, and now he's back. Stanton, release him. Oh, he's back. You're going to engage in a contract negotiation with a player who's been on your team for 2 months, and you're going to call him a unique player and a unique situation? Where exactly is that getting you in a negotiation? Are you telling your fan base something that they need to know? Is there a purpose for it? Are you trying to sell more tickets? Are you trying to show your clubhouse that you have an interest in continuing to increase your payroll and keeping the player around going forward? I just want to understand the provenance of the thought, of the statement. Because once you start, then you've opened the door to Scott. And boy, did he run through it. When asked, because of course he's going to be asked, and of course he's going to respond, he said, always happy to talk with Hal. Notice he didn't say Brian. Notice he didn't say the Yankees. That is him perpetuating the myth, the ridiculous truth that he'll only talk to owners. Always happy to talk with Hal. Juan is getting to know the Yankee organization. His singular focus is winning. I lost my lunch. I was eating. What did I do yesterday for lunch? Oh, no, I had some blood work done. What's the deal with that when you get blood work done and they give you an appointment of 1 o'clock? That's not nice. If you have to fast to do blood work, why can't they do it at 9 a.m. or even earlier for people who don't do live shows at 8 a.m.? But then you're grumpy and you're not eating, and then you give blood, and then you want a donut, but they don't give donuts. So then you stop for a slice, and then you feel bloated. I don't know why that was in my head right now. Because I got sick when I saw that quote. His singular focus is winning. Well, if you did any due diligence on Juan Soto and Scott Boras, you would know that the singular focus is not winning. The singular focus is getting a free agent contract that breaks the record for free agent contracts. That's the singular focus. And what the hell does it mean that he is getting to know the Yankee organization? Oh, he's trying to figure out the best route to the Bronx? I can't remember. Is it the 4 or the 5 train? It's just escaping me at the moment. Let me see. Do mine East Side guy, West Side guy? Maybe I'll look at Westchester. And please, could you give me as much information as possible on the minor league organization? I'd like to see the prospect pipeline, if that's okay, because I'd like to evaluate it. I'd like to understand how we get to the airport, which airport we fly from, and whether or not we travel on off days. It's the biggest bunch of horse hockey we've seen this entire year. Boris's quote. His singular focus is winning, and he's getting to know the Yankee organization. Juan Soto had a quote that was exactly on point, and I loved it. They know the phone number and everything. They know where to call. I love that. It's like Ghostbusters. Call Ray Parker Jr. That's why you have Boris. And he's been very consistent about that he is not going to deal with it. Call Boris. Here is how the call is going to go. Hey, Scott, it's Hal. Hey, Hal, how you doing? Good. What do you think about Soto? Does he like it here? Oh, Hal, he loves it in New York. You have no idea. And the organization, you guys are first class. Oh, thank you so much, Scott. So, what are you looking for? Where's your head? Well, Hal, you don't need to be a genius to know that I told him to turn down 440. So you got to beat that. So we're going to start at you beating 440, and don't give me 441. Well, Scott, how long do you think that we should go back and forth? Should we start with proposals? Should we do a pitch deck? Do you want to do some sort of LeBron James video? Should I get any actor? Do you want to get Ben Stiller and Chris Rock to say how badly we want Juan Soto? Nah, I don't think that's necessary, Hal. Those videos don't mean dong. I just want to know how much money you're going to give him. Well, thank you, Scott. It's good to see you. Good to talk to you. These conversations, I'd like to tell you that it's fully intellectual with analytics, and you're going back and forth and showing the agent, look, here's the value of the player according to all of these stats. And the agent then has his own thing. Now, Scott Boras does give you a book of why his player deserves the amount of money he's asking for, and shows what his player on your team will be like, what it will add to your team. But at the quarter pole, hey, if you sign Soto now, he's not going to complain, bitch, and moan inside the clubhouse. He's going to be amazing. There's going to be no Padres situation. It's going to be all rainbows and butterflies. And all of that can be yours for just like your foundation. 501, baby. Back in February, I had to wait to see that Juan Soto would not sign with the Yankees long term. That was February of this year. I just want to re-up a wait to see right now. And it's a separate wait to see. But it's sort of the same. Can I do it, Coca, or no? If I say wait to see, no contract for Soto during the course of the season, is that a different wait to see? I think I can get credit for that. Because if he doesn't sign during the season, I win that wait to see. And if he does sign with the Yankees, I lose that one. So I could do a win and a loss. Wait to see. This makes it official. No contract for Soto during the season. What's going on in Queens? Coca?
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? Get into my Twitter. It's a fun place to be. I'm getting, on a side note here, if we have an extra minute here on a Friday, does anyone get any numbness or weird feeling in their hands or tingling? And when your thumbs feel heavy? Just not sure. My thumbs have been hurting a lot recently. But if you're in my Twitter at David P. Samson, then ask me a question. Or go on my website, davidsamsonpodcast.com. Hola, David. Hello. I assume you are going to talk about Steve Cohen because you always do. The content machine. Are the Mets sellers? Please tell me it can't be true. I appreciate the question. I do appreciate Steve Cohen. Let me give you some background into what Steve Cohen did. Steve Cohen is on Twitter and has fun on Twitter and likes interacting with fans. Steve Cohen enjoys sending DMs from time to time, so you can slide right into his DMs and maybe you will get access to the owner of the New York Metropolitans. Steve Cohen tends to disappear when things are bad and loves to reappear when things are good. LFGM. There was some sort of tweet at him, and then Steve Cohen responded, and it was about the team. It was about trades. It was about despondency. Mets fans are despondent. Why? Because Alonso is going to be a free agent with Boras. Why? Because Lindor, who you love the signing, you love when Steve Cohen is spending $300 million a year. The fact that Lindor is not worth it, and we told you that the minute he signed, now you're upset with Steve Cohen. I don't want to be disrespectful to the audience or to fans, but sometimes I get so frustrated. All you want is your team to spend money until your team spends money, and then all you want is for your team to win. If you win and don't spend money, no, you should have spent money, we'd win more. If you win and spend money, you're brilliant. Hall of Famer. If you spend money and lose, you're a dog. If you don't spend money and lose, you're Samson. I don't quite get the quadrants. Steve Cohen is spending money hand over fist. He's throwing money. Just because he traded Verlander and Scherzer, he's still paying them for the most part. For whatever reason, Steve Cohen decided to say all in the future about the team. Not much we can do until the trade deadline. And now fans and the media started questioning Steve Cohen. What does he mean that not much we can do until the trade deadline? The trade deadline is the last moment that you can do something. The Padres traded for Arias May 3rd. You can sell anytime. You can buy anytime. What Steve Cohen likely meant to say is we're still evaluating the team to see if it's going to be what we expected it to be or if it's not. And we're going to take advantage of the remaining 2 months prior to the trade deadline to put ourselves in the best position to make the best possible decision. That would have been a good answer. Maybe a little wordy, above 280, but he may have a check mark. And then he deleted it. My record stands. I have never deleted a tweet. Well, let me make sure I'm clear. When there's a typo, I delete it, then repost it without the typo. But now there's an edit. Though I've lost my editability, I used to have an undo thing on Twitter where I could do undo if I saw some sort of typo. Now my tweets just send immediately, and then I have to read them again or wait for Coca to tell me I spelled Caitlin Clark's name wrong. Sorry, Caitlin. Tough game, too, for Caitlin Clark last night. I was going between that and the Ranger game, mostly focused on the Ranger game till 8:30. It was available on Amazon, the Caitlin Clark game. Just a tough game. The Fevers stink, by the way. Let's get back to Steve Cohen, if you don't mind. And I just want to finish one quick thought on this and to tell you that when you delete a tweet and then you come out with another statement, it makes people feel like you shouldn't be tweeting at all and that any tweet you say is meaningless. So it's way better to just add to the tweet or to explain the tweet. It's like when you give a statement or a press conference, you can't make a statement and then go back and say, oh, sorry, ignore that statement. We're going to send a new one. Nobody in the media is going to do that. He said, I believe in this team. This is the new tweet. I believe in the back of the baseball card. It's way too early to speculate on anything. It's May 16th. That's yesterday. I expect to make the playoffs. I know the fan base is frustrated, he continued, but it's still early. You could have given a shout out to Nothing Personal there and said, it's still early mid. We're still very capable, he continued, of making the playoffs. I fully expect to make the playoffs. That's sort of a bizarre statement to me. Because if you believe in the team and if you fully expect to make the playoffs, then we've had an owner tell us, hey, we're not selling. I don't care where we are around the trade deadline. I'm getting old. My bananas are getting brown. When in fact I have bananas. We're buyers. I think he could have just said that. I mean, for crying out loud, Meatloaf, the Mets are only a half game back in the wild card because of expanded wild card. Everybody's in it other than the Marlins, White Sox, and Rockies. Although the Rockies are HO triple right now. Haven't they won like 7 in a row, Coca? Anyway, let me finish one more thing on Steve Cohen. One more word of advice. Every year you should expect to make the playoffs. When you tell your fan base that you fully expect to make the playoffs, that means there'll be some years when you only half expect to make the playoffs or 1/4 expect to make the playoffs. The word fully should never be included in anything you say or write because I want people to believe whenever I say something, I'm always all in with what I say. I always believe in what I am saying. I don't like the hedging. The other thing I don't like is the time. You're every day as owner and GM and president speculating on what's coming next, projecting player talent, projecting team performance. You're always projecting. So don't say to a fan base that it's too early to speculate when that's all anybody does. That's all you're paying your people to do. Irony. What is your hedge fund? Can you imagine if one of your hedge fund guys came up to you during bonus time and said, listen, I had a tough year, but it's way too early to speculate on what's going to happen next year? No, you're paid to tell me exactly what's going to happen and then make me money. Scottie Scheffler's having a bad day. Scottie Scheffler, look at this mugshot. We're going to show it up. They put him, was he wearing that orange when he got arrested? Can we go, I assume that is prison garb. Do they put you in prison clothes to take a mugshot? At least he knew not to smile. I would say once you get the mugshot, I would say that you're missing the tea time. Thank you for that, Coca. All right, when we come back, we are going to review a movie and talk about it significantly. And then we are going to give you an update on the Rangers Hurricanes and how happy we are here in New York that the Rangers have made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It's David Samson. It's a Friday. We are live. You can catch us on DraftKings Network at 10 a.m. Eastern every day. Or if you're listening to this, thank you. Pass the word. Tell your friends. We're doing stuff here every day. Taking our show back on the road. Go check out our website, davidsamsonpodcast.com. We're coming to St. Louis on June 25th and Chicago on July 1st. We are excited to get to the Midwest. We are excited to see all of the people who have already reached out saying they're going to be there. Thank you. Can't wait. Well, I watched a movie yesterday, and I wanted to take a few minutes about it because there's been a lot of talk about Harrison Butker, a lot of talk about hate, a lot of talk about our presidential election, that is coming up in November. A lot of talk, hey, stick to sports, stick to business, shut up and dribble. There's a movie that I watched called One Life, starring Anthony Hopkins and Johnny Flynn from Lovesick. One Life is about a man, it's a completely true story, named Nicky Wenton, who saved 669 children from Czechoslovakia as they were going to be murdered by Hitler and the Nazis as World War II was starting. He found a way to get them to England, and the story is, as portrayed in the movie and as is true, that he was successful, but he did not mention it at all until it was discovered like 50 years later. And then he went on a TV show, and what follows is one of the guaranteed most emotional scenes you will see when you realize that when you save one life, you're saving the world. That when you think you can't do anything to stop the eventuality that you know is certain, that you just decide to add to the problem or ignore the problem. Nicky Wenton, who died at 106 years old, spoiler alert. As a matter of fact, I want to put the, Coca, if you don't mind, I don't think we can actually do that. 60 Minutes did a whole story and interviewed Nicky Wenton when he was 104 years old. I'll try to tweet out the link to that story. It's 15 minutes. It's worth watching. The movie itself is worth watching. The performance by Hopkins is worth watching. But to me, the point of the movie is way bigger. And it's not about Hitler. It's not about what he did in the extermination of Jews and other races in the final solution. It is the feeling of helplessness that I get so often and that people put onto me so often. I can't change my lot in life. I can't change the world. I can't change anything. And I often say when I give a speech or when I'm asked to address a crowd or an interview, no one is asking you to change the world. We're just asking you to change your world. And there's a big difference between your and the. Anyone who says, I'm going to change the world, I sort of take it with a grain of salt. It seems very difficult to do. You can have a moment. You can do a project. Is it going to change the world? Probably not. But changing your world? Way more reasonable. You're not going to stop cow farts from crushing the ozone layer, but you can stop eating meat. You're not going to stop racism, but you can stop being a racist. You're not going to stop sexism, but you can stop someone around you from being a misogynist. You're not going to stop obesity, but you can exercise yourself. On and on and on. And what Nicky Wenton did in One Life, please watch the movie. The Rangers are going to have a chance to watch this movie. They got a couple days off now as the Panthers and Bruins continue their series. I thought we were going to a Game 7 Saturday night. I've got dinner plans. It's my mother's birthday today. Happy birthday, Mom. My biggest fan. If you are lucky enough to have a mother still, which my guess is only maybe 69% of you are. But if you're lucky enough to have a mother, just recognize that. There is no level of unconditional love like what a mother has for a child. It's not like what exists with a spouse. It's what exists with your child. And wouldn't it be nice to reciprocate that? Call her once in a while. Wish her a happy birthday or just a happy Tuesday. Happy birthday, Mom, and thank you. Truly. So there's a birthday dinner for my mother Sunday night. So I've already been doing what I shouldn't be doing, which is looking ahead at different schedules of when are the Knicks playing? Are the Nuggets going to have a Game 7? No way, because the Nuggets are going to win Game 6 in Minnesota. And as you know, the Nuggets did win Game 6 in Minnesota, 112-70. So that series is over. One of the great performances by the Nuggets of all time in the history of basketball happened last night in Minnesota. So when is game 7 going to be? What do I do about dinner? Do I delay dinner? Do I not? Do I really let sports run my life? If it were business, I would let it run my life. Sports is business. So all this is going on in my head. And I also have a dinner Saturday night with my sister. And so the question is, the Rangers are playing game 7, so I'm going to blow off the dinner. Maybe I could go to the dinner but face a TV. Is there a TV? Call the restaurant, no TV. Even if there were a TV, would it be on hockey? All this is in my head. And then the Rangers scored 4 goals in the third period on a natural hat trick. Natural. I just had a moment here, Sarah. Chime in if you can. Natural, I assume, means not an empty netter. Natural means that you score 3 goals in 1 period, and Chris Kreider, the longtime Ranger, did it in the third period. And instead of losing 3-1, they won 5-3 by adding an empty netter at the end. That was not one of Kreider's hat tricks. So now the Rangers are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And the question is, who are they going to play? Panthers, Bruins. Panthers, Bruins. Something happened in hockey yesterday that blew my mind. Brad Marchand is the goon for the Bruins. Sorry, Boston fans. He's the one who got punched in the head and has an upper body injury. He gave a quote yesterday that is going to get him in trouble, and it should be. What media is saying is he just said the quiet part out loud. That's not what this is. He said people don't want to say it, but part of playoffs is trying to hurt every player on the other team. The more guys you take out, the more advantage your team has. Do you think for 1 minute that Brad Marchand is not going to be fined or spoken to by Gary Bettman and by the National Hockey League? Do you think that that is what hockey players do? Football players, baseball players? In baseball, when you want to hit somebody, you hit him between the numbers. You hit him on the ass. You don't hit him in the head. In football, you're not trying to hurt another player. You're trying to stop the other player from advancing. You're trying to hit the other player as hard as you can legally with your shoulder pads. Don't lead with your head. You're a moron for doing it. In hockey, you are checking, you are poking, you are slashing, you are hitting the shins of somebody, you're scratching. In basketball, Jokic bleeds after every game. But aren't you doing that to gain an advantage to win that game? Are you actually doing it to hurt the other player? Now, I'm willing to admit something that Coco will be upset about. When we had pitchers in the National League East who would get Tommy John surgery, I would be happy. There's a whole concept, Schadenfreude. It's when you happiness at the misfortune of others. And it's a real thing. Would I purposefully want Tom Glavine, as an example, to have Tommy John? No. Or a shoulder soreness or flexor tendon inflammation? I'm not doing anything to make it happen, but I'm happy to be the beneficiary of such occurrence. Do you not see the world of difference between appreciating and rooting for someone to get hurt versus trying to and actually hurting the person? I sure as heck do. I sure as heck fire do. It can't be part of the playoffs that you're trying to hurt every player on the other team. It can't be. And if that is what the players do in hockey, and I've been watching a ton of hockey during the playoffs because that's what I am. I'm a hockey playoff guy. I don't see it. I would see it last night in the Rangers-Canes game. I saw a hard-fought game where everyone wants to win, and then there's a handshake line. I want Brad Marchand to be a part of a handshake line after the Panthers win Game 7, and I want someone to purposefully hurt him. You know, of course, don't tweet at me. Don't even start talking to me about this. You know that I knew that the T-Wolves won last night. If you get the show, you're aware that the T-Wolves won 100 and something to 70, 105 to 70. You know that the game was over early. You know that Jokic was pissed off. You know that when shots don't fall and the defense plays well, you're going to lose. It happens. The T-Wolves forced a game 7 in Denver this coming Sunday, either at 3:30 p.m. Eastern or 8 o'clock Eastern. It's the dreaded TBD. Side note here, Coca, I used to hate the dreaded TBDs. When you are running a stadium and you've got a TBD, you can't tell your game day staff what it's going to be. You have to contact them in extra time because you have to prepare them for both windows, because you don't want them coming as though the game's at 3:30 when the game's at 8, because then you're paying extra. They don't need to be there that early. It's a totally different call time for the staff. So first you're contacting the staff saying, hey, it's either 3:30 or 8. Then after tonight's Knicks game, it'll be either 3:30 or 8. So then you got to recontact them, and it's Friday night when this happens. And so it's a whole staffing thing. I don't like that word. 4869. It's a whole staffing problem, these TBDs. When you're a fan of the team, I don't want to make dinner reservations. We got to wait. Got to figure out when our game is back in Denver. Anthony Edwards is getting a ton of love for telling the clubbies in Denver after the Game 5 loss, I'll see you MFers back here for Game 7, as though he's Nostra frickin' Damus or something. When we had players do that, that was because they held off on tipping the clubbies until the next trip in. Hey, we'll see you when we're back here. I'll get you then. Why do you think the new CBA has tips that are automatically given to the clubbies now? Because so many players stiff the clubbies. I'm not saying Anthony Edwards stiffed anyone. I'm laughing because that is often what players will say is, hey, I got you next time. Dude, you got your per diem envelope yesterday. Yeah, I lost it on the play. Like lost and found it? No, lost it in cards. All right, get me next time. That really does happen. Exactly like that, actually. Nothing personal pick of the day. I had the Nuggets +2 over the T-Wolves. How did I do? I sort of had a feeling that game was going to be a problem. They went up 9-2, and then I think it was a 69-0 run, and all of a sudden it was 71-9, and I thought that may be hard for the Nuggets to come back from. I also had the Astros beating the A's. Can we get an update? I'm going to do it right now, actually, if you don't mind. I'd like an update with the Astros. I believe I could fly. I think they're on their way back. I think they've won a bunch in a row, and I think they should be out of the cellar. Let me just give you a quick check here. Yeah, they're now up in third place, only 5 games back at 19-25. I mean, they're better than last place. We had the Astros over the A's, and we won that one. What are my picks for today? Let me give them to you straight. And I gave them away if you're paying attention. Remember I said the Panthers would win Game 7? Well, Game 6 is tonight. We're taking the Bruins +124. It's a hockey pick, folks. Bruins +124 over the Panthers to force a Game 7. And then the baseball pick for today, the Astros. 4869. The baseball pick for today is the Atlanta Braves over the Padres. Max Fried is pitching. The Padres are an unmitigated disaster yet again. Let me see if I can tell you where the Padres are, which I should be able to off the top of my head. They're 7 games behind the Dodgers. Are you going to spend $5,000 on an Ohtani bobblehead? Just out of curiosity. People lined up for 3 hours for a bobblehead. So I was just curious whether or not you'd wait 3 hours to try to sell something on eBay for $5,000. I can't imagine that you would. I can't imagine anyone would pay $5,000 for a bobblehead, but there you have it. The Padres are sitting here in second place. The division is gone. They're going to get caught by the Diamondbacks. They're a team that is trying to be the Dodgers that can't be. We are taking Freed. All right, to finish up today's show, we've got a Scheffler update. He has been released and is on his way to the course. Oh, I think that means he's going to make his tee time. It's only 8:45 a.m. What has he been charged with? Something bad? Reckless driving, disregarding traffic signals from an officer directing traffic, third-degree criminal mischief. That doesn't sound good. Second-degree assault of a police officer. Hold on, Coca. That's a little different than reckless driving and disregarding traffic signals. We're going to have to go to the Kentucky Penal Code and find out what second-degree assault of a police officer is. Based on my experience, that could be any sort of touching, any sort of him saying, do not touch me, do not take me out of the car, and then sort of fighting back. I just watched a movie about that where by accident, somebody punched a police officer. Coca, there's no way you'll know what movie I'm thinking of, but it was a recent movie, and I want to say it was Mark Wahlberg, but I don't think it was. Anyway, I digress. So they did release Scheffler in time, but those are charges. Obviously, they won't stick. Obviously, I don't know for fact, but I assume they will not stick. But he will play golf. I assume he has a statement ready because the media is going to want to talk to him about it. I assume his agent is working on a statement right now, and I hope that the statement will not say much, because when you have been arrested, when you've been released, and when you've been charged, it's way better to say nothing. Just say, I can't really comment, but I'm looking forward to getting back on the golf course. You could do the apology if you want, but you shouldn't. You could talk about the apology for the fatality, but it's better just to say nothing, which I assume he will. Okay. I'm back to saying okay. Something came out yesterday that interested me. I want to do that better. Something came out yesterday that interested me about Major League Soccer, and I wanted to touch on it. It's a league that's trying so hard to matter. They're trying so hard. They've got Messi. It came out yesterday, the payrolls of the teams. Did you see that Messi himself is paid more than just about every team's full payroll? Here's the thing about a league where you try to keep payroll down the way MLS does, and then you make exceptions for certain players, and then you codify those exceptions. It allows for a team like Inter Miami to make deals with players, to give them a competitive advantage, whether it leads to anything on the field or not. We don't know yet. So far it is. They're at top of the table. But the danger is by creating inequality, by allowing for exceptions to what's supposed to have been basic socialist behavior within a league, you are putting your league at risk. Major League Soccer is at risk because they do not have what baseball has. Baseball, you've got the Mets at over 300. You've got the A's or the Marlins at much lower payrolls, the Rays. You've got huge payroll disparity that has been earned over decades, centuries. The payroll disparity in Major League Baseball is something they are trying to stop from happening. Major League Soccer is encouraging payroll disparity because they believe where they are in the evolution of their league, it is the best thing to create super teams. It is so incredibly short-sighted to allow for the exceptions and the violations that are taking place in Inter Miami. And they are going to have to tighten up that ship. And the reason they will do that, even with Messi doing what he's doing, is that it's just business. And with that level of parity, you are creating a league where everyone will say, I'm not interested. It's nothing personal, Jorge.